And welcome to the LEC post-game lobby. I am Quickshot, joined by Yamato Cannon and Nisqy after a hell of a series and a very, very long day. Nisqy, what was it like going to 5 games again, and ultimately with that pace and the slow tension of game 5? How do you reflect on the series?
I don't know, it was just a banger of a series, to be honest, because I felt like every game was just different. Like, some games, it was like so many kills early game. Then game 5 was like no kills, kind of. Everyone was just farming it up. So yeah, for me, it was just a roller coaster of a series, and I'm happy we won at the end.
I'm not 100% sure I agree with you that every game was different, because the average kills per minute for games 1 through 4 was 1 kill a minute.
Okay.
Yamato, you're sitting behind the stage watching the boys play, and it's a bit fast and loose at times. How was it from your perspective?
That was pretty fun. You know, I like hearing the boys. I like being back in the studio. I think it's just a whole different experience, and you know, I was confident all the way. You know, when you get to hear the players talk and how like the demeanor is in game, and I just know that it's in the bag. So I felt pretty good, but yeah, I was nervous in some moments when Hilly's like walking forward and he's just baiting abilities. And then when the key words are being said about how the game should be played, I'm like that monkey lamp Upset has. It's like just, you know, he has like a monkey lamp.
Exactly, yes, just super happy. Tell me about this draft in game 5 and why the game was so slow, and so like it felt like there was a lack of engage tools on really either side. Is that fair to say, Yamato?
Well, to be fair, like you look at the champs like LeBlanc, Thresh, Lee, GP, like they are very, very slippery. I don't know if there's any engaged champions in the game that I can reach onto, and they were just kind of hugging the turret. And then, you know, Nisqy just went on a farming spree and cracked the code. I'm kind of curious how much gold he got from his passive.
A lot, probably.
I don't know if we can check that, but if it is possible to find out how much gold Nisqy was picking up from his passive, let's find out. Your Twisted Fate was fantastic. It looked so flawless and seamless. The solo kill on VTO in the bottom lane was particularly impressive. Was it that comfortable from your perspective, or were you feeling the pressure?
I mean, to be honest, I knew they were kind of scared of the pick because they banned it like game 1, I think, or in game 3 as well. I don't know. Like they were just banning it on red. I was like, okay, I guess if they leave it up, I will just pick it and see what happens. And then I realized mid-game he was not farming as much as me, and they were giving me breathing room, and I was just going side, taking their camps, taking my camps. I was just saying, I will carry this game, just give me farm. And I was like 3 levels ahead, I think, at one point. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's always been like a comfort pick. But also my team actually plays well around it, so it makes it look way easier. But yeah, it's one of my comfort picks for sure.
Just before we were coming on air, Yamato was saying that, yeah, they had Ash Arrow, but we had Ash Arrow every 10 seconds. It definitely felt that way. Nisqy, I have to ask, what the hell happened in game 4 once you dove past the top lane outer turret and conceded 3-4 kills? I assume that wasn't the way it was supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, actually. It's like, I'm basing, and we said, like, okay, we should redraft, and I'm like, okay, sure, we can blow, like, Oriana TP, and it will look good, but then she TPs, and we still, like, commit, and then I see Lee Sin coming from base, and I'm like, well, it's doomed, right? But then we died, and we're like, it's fine, now we're behind, but we can still play the game. Like, we just tried to play from behind, and we made some good picks, actually, that game. Yeah, they won at the end, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a very dramatic game. Yeah. Just before we move on to some additional topics, now let's talk about the play styles. I think Misfits surprising again, showing a relatively dominant wins at times. How do you read, obviously, Misfits' performance and their ability to adapt in the series?
Well, I think Misfits is definitely a strong team. I think they kind of overcorrected some of the mistakes they did against Rogue, because against Rogue, they were dying on side lane a lot, and they were very, like, prone to look for farm, and I felt like they overcorrected. So they were just kind of grouping, and they were very, very scared of getting caught on side after we just picked them off a couple of times. And I think this turned into kind of a liability. I think they were playing very reactive, which is very good against us. But the moment we realized this, I felt like we could just take our time and choose our moments.
Yeah, definitely the case. Of course, I do want to talk about one of the situations that there's a lot of fans talking about, and we have not read in depth what the responses are, but the pauses in game number 4. What is that impact like, both for you as a player, Nisqy, and yourself, Yamato, watching backstage? Let's start with Nisqy, in terms of the flow and you know, your mentality.
I mean, it definitely breaks like the momentum, I'd say, for both teams, to be honest. Like, remember, I tried to like all chat and kind of just talk with the enemy, just because like there was nothing to do. We just had to wait, and yeah, it kind of sucks, to be honest. It's not like I don't know, like we paused, but we thought it was really bad in game. Like we thought it was a bug. I guess it was not at the end, but at the end it's bad for both teams, I'd say,
Yeah.
to pause. But yeah.
And Yamato, from your perspective?
Like, I understand that people are upset about it, but you know, what we are told is to pause the moment we see a bug, right? And it turns out this was like a rise mechanic that was added to like prevent trolling. If you like do a move command outside of the rise ultimate, you don't TP with it, and we had no clue. And sure, pro players should know a lot of the mechanics, but sometimes there are things I didn't know about this interaction. There are things that show up in the game, and we are told that we need to pause the moment you see anything that is game breaking. And in those moments, like Viego was in that ult, and that's like the parameters that we are playing under. We scrimmed with it, and I never saw this show up. So we are told to pause. If anything happens, we went for the pause. How people deal with pauses and how the challenge of it is something that is different for every team. And I understand that there is a human aspect that is a part of it, but in the end, you know, this is the rule set, and we're just following the rule set, right? If a bug happens, we're not going to just like not pause because we are afraid that it's not a bug or something, right? We're told to pause if we see a bug, and we just follow that through.
I have to wholeheartedly agree. I think in the nature of video games and the medium with which we compete, those possibilities are always there. So I err on the side of double check, you know, make sure you are informed on that matter. Now I am hearing that we do actually have an interview with Misfits, as we'll say goodbye to them and their 2021 season. Law is standing by with Kobbe.
Thank you, Quickshot and Kobbe. Thanks a lot for joining me after this series. I'm very sorry that things didn't go the way you wanted today. I want to talk about the series as a whole and the impact of pauses, because they were discussing it in PGL, especially when it comes to the momentum for both teams. The fact that when you pause the game for so long, you lose the focus of what you want to do next. How did it go for you today?
So I think the first pause was, I mean, it was really long. I don't know, 20 minutes or something. I'm not sure. And it's the same for both teams. It's really annoying because you lose the flow of the game and you kind of forget what's happening. And I think it was pretty obvious that after the pause, we were getting caught left and right and we were not focused. So, I mean, it's the same for both teams, but they responded better to it. It's something that comes with more experience too. And second one was different because it was in the middle of the team fight. And then it's also, I mean, we can sit and discuss in the pause screen, like, what to do now. And then suddenly there's like 4 people flashing. And I mean, I need to watch it again to see if it had an impact. But it's just kind of annoying, but you can't do much about it.
It must be frustrating, and it's a case of how you adapt towards this. But I mean, it didn't prevent you from winning the game and take Fnatic to Game 5. Interestingly enough, I feel like today you were favorites compared to last week against Rogue because of how well you performed against Rogue. Well, do you agree? Because you don't seem to agree.
I'm not sure, honestly. I think in our minds we were favorites because we beat them 4 times before.
Yeah.
And we felt like we were better, but we weren't. But it was really close. But from the outside, I still feel like Fnatic were the favorites. There are some people hoping for us after the Rogue series, but I don't think it's often that Misfits is favorites against the Fnatic team. It was pretty close, I would say, 50-50, you could say.
All right, let's say it was a 50-50. Well, from the polls on Twitter, it was not 50-50. It was actually favoring Misfits. So yeah, it was super.
Then I'm wrong, maybe.
And it was super cool to see, actually, because it doesn't happen so much. You were telling that Fnatic was the better team today. I want to say that it comes down to details. What are the takeaways from this series from you?
For sure, yeah, that's what makes the loss even harder to take, because if you lose 3-0, 3-1, it's kind of easier to get through if you can just admit to yourself, yeah, they were just better, like straight up. But here it's like, I mean, they were better, so they won, but it's so close and it's all the details that matter and just small things that can go differently. And then it was the same against Rogue, where we had the Game 5 that was ours to take and we mess up. And that's just, I mean, I don't know if it gets easier with time. I remember crying after losing a lot of Game 5s, but it's not like this now, even though it still hurts a lot. So now I don't know, it's just when it's so close, it's the worst. And seeing your teammates be so sad. And I mean, of course, I'm devastated too. It's not nice, but I think what we can take from it is our growth. I think we improved a lot this summer split, and we went from not even making playoffs in spring to now where we started in the upper bracket and we're so close to challenging the top teams. I mean, we are challenging them, but
Yeah.
we're not winning. And for that, we can be proud of ourselves. It's not something people are going to remember because in the end, it's a failure when you lose, always. And that's, I know it's, yeah, I'm always going to think like this. You win, and then at some point you're going to lose and you're out, and then it's a failure. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's difficult, especially in these situations. But I remember we had an interview a couple of weeks back where I talked about the fact that as an experienced player, it's maybe hard to see where and how you can improve. Although I feel like you took full responsibility for this team and you improved so much with them and were able to make very young players shine through your experience. So is there anything that you noticed about your improvements this year that are going to help you next year? Because we're going to see you again, for sure. The road doesn't stop there for you,
Hopefully.
Kobbe.
Yeah, honestly, it was a nice year. Like in general, we started from, I mean, not nothing. We had like good players and promising talents here in BTO, and I think it went how we like saw it to go, except for the fact that our goal was to make worlds and we didn't. But yeah, it's been kind of different than I was more in a forceful position back when I played in Splice, at least some of the years. And here I had to take a kind of different role where I tried to help my teammates through my experience and can play the weak side. We did that a lot. We were very powerful top side team, I think it's fair to say, the split especially. But it was working for us and we stayed true to it because that was just us. And I tried to do what I could, not as good as I would like to, because when I see Vander, what he's doing with his experience and how he's helping everyone and myself included, he's like a role model to look up to, how to help your younger players. So yeah, definitely a lot of lessons for me and a lot of things I can improve on that I see. Yeah, things like this.
Well, I'm amazed by how you and Vander managed to grow up and help these young players, and hopefully this can continue next year. Is there one last thing you would like to say to the fans who've been cheering for you throughout the year?
Well, I mean, what is there to say? Right now, I'm just really sad about the loss, and yeah, sorry for the failure, but we did our best, everyone. I tweeted as well. I'm proud of all my teammates and my staff. Everyone gave it their all, especially in these last few weeks when we were kind of on a slump. And after the Rogue Says, we got a lot of hope, and I'm just proud of everyone who gave their all. So sorry for the loss, I guess, but we did our best.
Well, you apologize about the failure, and I want to thank you for an amazing year with Misfits and all the good plays we got, all the good games we got to watch. So yeah, thanks for everything and have a well-deserved rest. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you next year, Kobbe.
Thank you.
And back to you, Trevor.
Thank you so much, Law and Kobbe. A very heartfelt, a very difficult conversation, and the Misfits story draws to a close. It was very exciting, it was very entertaining, and it was very interesting to see Misfits following in a similar path as Rogue and Mad Lions, investing in some infrastructure, developing on some of the local names, and the surprise hit of Hirit. Nobody was expecting him. He managed to pop off and leave a mark on Europe this year. Now it is getting late, and these two will have a series to compete on Sunday. So let's take a look at the bracket. Fnatic's run in the lower half continues. I don't expect I'll be able to get too much in-depth insights on the G2 series. So I'm going to challenge you to talk about Mad Lions and Rogue. Yamato, who's going to come out victorious? What's going to happen tomorrow?
Honestly, like, both teams are super dangerous, but I am a bigger fan of what Mad does. Like, I'm more impressed when I'm watching them play, and I think they can always put the screws to Rogue no matter what the game state is, so I'm thinking Mad.
Nisqy?
I think, in my opinion, Mad is just a better team. I feel like they play with, I feel like they play with less pressure. Even when they're behind, they come back against Rogue. When they're ahead, they usually smash. So I don't know. I feel like Mad is just a better team. And also, I think their mid game is probably the best in Europe. So I'd go for Mad.
We'll have to see who comes out victorious tomorrow. The winner will be sitting in the finals on championship weekend. I do just want to quote one thing that Adam was saying in his winner's interview, that if we play the way that we did today, if we play at our best, we'll definitely beat G2. Fairly confident, fairly introspective in that regard. Yamato, one statement on the series ahead of G2.
Precision beats speed, and we are precision.
Nisqy?
Better mid will win. So.
I absolutely love that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for a fantastic series today. Go home, get some rest. We will see you on Sunday. That is it from us here in the LEC, but be sure to stay tuned for the LCS as TSM take on Immortals. We'll be back tomorrow for the Spring Finals rematch between the Mad Lions and Rogue. We'll see you then.